This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm ready for the holidays.
Really?
Yes.
I said,
Yeah.
how many more days?
The countdown.
The countdown is so real.
What are you, how is your work schedule during the holidays?
So it's not too bad. It like kind of, I don't want to say it slows down, but it slows down. It does slow down. So my last trip I have on the 21st, and then our office is kind of closed after the
Mm.
23rd, like through like the new year. So like that's just helpful. So it'll be like client stuff here and there, but really they'll just be playing games. It won't be anything like brands won't be activated. You know what I'm saying? It like quiets down from that standpoint. So I'm definitely looking forward to
Okay. Okay. Well, I read through your pre-assessment.
that. Okay.
So what would you like to focus on? Because I definitely saw with the accountability to focus and the lack of decisiveness.
Oh
We,
my.
yeah, we're gonna tap into that, but what do you want to focus on today?
So no, I think okay, a couple things. So I know I also did the flight assessment. So interested in hearing like feedback from there too. But no, I think like really a big thing is like finishing this year out strong, which is like a couple of days, but really like just getting to like a clear headspace to like go into like next year and just being very focused on like goals, being intentional, but also it's so funny because I was reading something the other day and it was just talking about like decision fatigue and I was like, this is a real thing. I was like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, is that what I'm feeling? So I just feel like I want to really go into the year like feeling fresh, feeling renewed, feeling like you're good here, like things will, start to work out, come together. But yeah, I'm just tired to be honest.
Mm. And the tiredness, wanting to go into the year fresh, have
Yeah.
you had that decision before or that goal before? Have you had that goal before?
Um, so I think not from this level of like feeling like, oh, I'm tired, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like this is, and I think it's just like the first year, like, we've lived in, Jersey, New York area, like a full year now. Like,
Mhm.
really getting into a full year of what that looks like, plus like travel. So, like, this year, I'm like, oh, okay, you feeling like a little bit more. And two, I think I always go into the year, with like, these are my goals, these are this. But I think this year I really want to be more accountable to them. So back to the like accountability piece, I want to be more accountable to them. I don't want them to feel like from a place of, oh, you have to do this, you must, but like from a place of like grace with them, from a place of like true, again, intentionality. Like I just, because I try not to do like the, all right, and I'm gonna lose this many pounds, which is all good, but I'm really like try to be thoughtful, around them. And sometimes they feel so big, if that makes sense. And then I feel like then when you start doing them, you fall off. You just kind of like, okay,
Mhm.
let's try again, or maybe let's not try again. So yeah, I'm all over the place, but really that's how my brain feels, to be honest.
I was going to say, I'm, that's basically what's going. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen with your
Okay.
assessment.
Yeah.
We are gonna go through that. And then when we go through that, I want to come back to where you are now. But I want to ask one more question before we do that. With what do you feel is the reason you're having the lack of decisiveness?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like there is a couple things, which is so funny. So like my husband and I, we do words of the year. So like we pray and God literally is always giving us like words of the year going into next year. So it's so funny because literally when I tell you the spirit has been like saying the most consistent stuff, and it always works out that it's both of us are like, dang, that's kind of what I was getting. That's what I was getting. But a big thing that came out of this and from this decisiveness is just this like ability to trust. I think is a big thing where hey, God has really been like, you not really trust you saying you trust in me, but are you really trusting me? So that's been like an interesting point. And then I think too is just so with that, it's just with decisions, I can just like comb them over so much. Like I'm just like, okay, well what about this? Okay, but then if we do this, then this has to be that. Like, and what if this comes up? Okay, but we got to make sure we plan for this. So I feel like even from this place of decision, before I get even like I've like gone over it and combed through it so many times. By the time it's time to make it, I just feel like stuck and unenthused about it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
I bet you I could tell you what the flight assessment is going to show us from that.
Mhm.
But okay, so let's go. Have we done the flight assessment before?
So I don't know if it was like the flight one because this one looked different, but we did um
We did a version of
a
this one.
version. Yeah, it was like a version of it. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. So you have not seen your results.
No, I like they popped up and then I was like, oh, this is a lot. So I was like, we gonna talk about this. So we just
Yes. Because did you actually get the flight assessment? Because you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have
I
got it.
I think I got it, or I got it. Either was that or some type of breakdown. It was a breakdown. It was some type of something. I'll forward it to you.
Forward it to me because we're, as you know, we're up leveling all of our systems. Do you see where it says flight assessment on your screen?
Yes. Well, I see the. Yes, I see it.
That where it says Jhonika Hawkins.
Okay. Nope. I think you got to go bigger because I see some other stuff. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
And so
Where is it?
we're up leveling. We're,
Mhm.
and so our everything. When I say everything, my back office, our email, our website, we're moving all our emails to a whole new like everything. So we're, with that, there's always the tweaks that I
Yeah.
want to see like what the system is giving you.
Mhm.
So right now, do you see extreme execution flight assessment? Okay.
Mhm. Yep. So let me
You did
forward.
not,
Yeah.
this is not what you receive, right?
No, it is what I received.
You did receive this.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so I
Mhm.
must have. Okay, so then that tells me. So you actually got this because you shouldn't
Mhm.
have gotten it in it. Did you get it as an email
Yep.
from,
It
from
says like your flight assessment report is ready.
and you clicked it, you actually got this report.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got to
Like,
tweak.
yeah.
Yeah, we got to tweak that because I don't want the clients to get them in
Before.
advance. Yeah, because y'all go in and have a whole nother assessment of what it is. And
Mhm.
it, yeah, it is,
I figured it's. I
yeah,
figured. I was like, I don't know if we was because we gonna talk about this. So I like saw it and then I just closed it. Okay.
yes.
I didn't
Okay,
go to
thank
it.
you for
Nope.
that
Nope.
insight because
Yep.
we need to do this together.
Yep.
Okay, so so with the flight assessment is a version of the DISC assessment. The DISC assessment is over 100 years old.
Mhm.
Tried and true. There's many different versions. I've been certified in multiple versions of it. The reason I love this version is because it's so simple and easy to understand, but more importantly, it's very simple and easy to apply. And what the DISC assessment, the flight assessment, it's a behavioral analysis. It's not about your personality. It's about how you show up in certain situations and circumstances. It gives you an insight into how you respond and how others can respond to you based on your behavioral tendency. And so in the flight assessment, you can see my screen where you see the four interactiveness, stabilizing, cautiousness, decisiveness. You see that, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so what the flight assessment, the data, what it shows is everybody has these 4 behavioral tendencies. Everybody. You have them to different degrees. No behavioral tendency is better than the other. You need a mix of all of them, or you have a mix of all of them. But what we do see is that we may be higher in certain areas than others,
Yeah.
right? And so the 4 areas that we have is one is what we call your high I or a flight attendant. High I is someone who's very engaging, very social. Think about a flight attendant. They can help the baby that's crying to the 80-year-old who's never flown before, right? And so that when you have those very engaging, very personable, very social, think about like a Will Smith, right? So that's what we call a high I or a flight attendant. Then we have what's called our grounds crew or a high S. A high S is someone who's all about pace, right? They're all about service, supporting, loyal. So think about a grounds crew. A grounds crew, they put the baggage on the plane. They help the pilot what they need. They get the flight attendants what they need. A grounds crew is the only person in that plane ecosystem that can go everywhere. They can go from the bottom to the top to the plane. And one of the reasons is because why? They support everybody. And so when you're a high S, you're very supportive, very service oriented, very loyal, very consistent. The next one is is your C or air traffic control. A person who's a high C or air traffic control, they're all about getting it right, meaning they're about every T being crossed, every I being dotted. They're about the stabilization of things. And think about it. If you're air traffic control, I want you to be attentive to the details. I want you to measure twice, cut once, right? And so they're all about how do we make sure this is done right? And then the last one is your pilot. And a pilot is very decisive. They're all about problem solving. They're getting to the solution. And so with pilots or a high D is what we call a high D. And so again, none of these are better than the other. Because think about it. If you got a pilot or 2 pilots, but you don't have a flight attendant, you could get the plane there, but the people it's going to be a mess, right? People are going to be fighting. They're going to be doing all kind of stuff. Or if you got a flight attendant and no air traffic control, the pilot can take off. The plane can be well kept, but they can crash because nobody's telling them where to go.
Yeah.
Or if you have the pilot, the air traffic control, and you got a flight attendant, but when the people land, their baggage ain't on the plane, you still got chaos. So all 4 of them are important. And so the thing is individually, we have a mix of all 4, but also collectively. So for example, with you and your husband has a certain tendency, you have a certain tendency. And so a lot of times where the breakdown in communication and why this is so critical and impactful for communication is when you learn your behavioral tendency, one, it gives you insight into you. It also gives other people insight into how to communicate with you. So for example, at one point, I was a high S, my husband's a high D. I was a high S and a high D. So I was, the grounds crew and the pilot, a little bit of both. But my husband was all D, like all D. So for me, I want to share, I want to give you details, like for high S for a grounds crew, I'm going to give you A through Z. Like you need everything, right? I'm giving you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, all the way. As a high D, my husband, he wants A and he wants Z. He don't care nothing about B through Y. So a conflict in our marriage was he always felt like, oh my God, I don't need all that, baby. Just get to the point.
Yeah.
On my side, I'm over here like he don't want to listen to me. He's not concerned with what matters to me. But when we took this flight assessment and understood, you know what, Sherry? Sometimes he just needs A and Z. He don't need B.
Mm-hmm.
And then my husband was able to go, oh, you know what? Sometimes she just needs me to listen to her give me every detail,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's why this is important individually, but it's also why we do so many workshops with teams and organizations,
Mm-hmm.
that communication. But what's most critical for you as a person, you got to know this about yourself.
Yeah.
So let's go down and look at you.
Goodness. Who knows? I'm
Tell
probably
you
all over the map with my
exactly what
siblings.
I thought you was gonna be. I could have told you this before the data proved it. Now, thinking about what we just shared, when
Yeah.
you look at this, what this says is now let me help you understand something. It's not, these are not based on what everyone else thinks 1 through 100. One is
Mm-hmm.
bad, 100 is good. That's why I don't want people to look at these in advance because that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
going to think. Oh, I'm a 80. That means I'm good. Oh God, I'm a 40. That means I'm bad. That is not what these register.
Yeah. Yeah.
What these register is this right here. It's
Okay.
telling you on a from introverted to extroverted as a flight attendant. It just gives you where you fall. You're
Mm-hmm.
extremely optimistic and expressive. Is
Mm-hmm.
that a fair assessment for the data to make?
It's a fair assessment.
you are you can be patient and thoughtful. Is that a fair assessment for it to make?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can be reasonable and independent when it comes to how things have to be right. Like there's a lot of people like for you, and tell me if the data is correct. When it comes to things being right, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, you got a good point. Okay, yeah, you got a good point. Like you're always trying to make sure you kind of make sure everybody's voice is kind of heard when it comes to like how things need to get done. Is that
Mm-hmm.
a fair assessment to make?
It's fair. Uh-huh.
And then as a pilot, as a decision maker, look at what this says. It says you're practical and conservative.
Mm.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
You just said, you trying to think of the most here. How do we do this? What's the nuances? Right. So what
Yeah.
this does is it's not saying 1 through 100, you're 50, it's saying you're practical and conservative in nature, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you look at this, what this is also saying, you'll hear us say, oh, you're a high flight attendant or you're a high I. Your flight attendant and your ground crew are pretty equal. So
Mm.
that means for you, you're all about being supportive, you're a service, and you want people to enjoy themselves and you want to make sure everybody's happy along the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair assessment to make,
Yes.
which aligns with what you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes you so good at what you do. Now, my pastor always says there's a backside to the blessing,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a backside to the blessing. What that means is, let's say I'm a high pilot. Let's say Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, high pilots, right? High pilots, they're decisive. They are about making, solving the problem. But what they can also be is they don't pay attention to whatever people say. It's
Mm-hmm.
their way or the highway. They can come across as not caring, right? Let's look at a high S, a high grounds crew, someone who's supportive, someone who's all about making sure we stay on pace. Well, the backside of the blessing is, but but that means you're always on this pace and you don't really want to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't like change at all because I'm trying to keep us on this pace. Well,
Yeah.
what if we need to make a left? Yeah, no, I don't really know about that left now. Okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or as a high S or a high I, because you are sociable, you are engaging. Let me ask you this: do your feelings get hurt easily?
Mm. Yes. Yes and no. I would say they used to, for sure. Like I would take things personal quickly, and I was like, oh dang, okay, sorry, my bad, I didn't mean. But that is the thing I've been trying to get over.
So your natural tendency
Mhm.
is to take it personally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
the backside of the blessing. So that's the backside of the blessing. And so the awareness that you're getting into is now you understand why.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you even more power to
Yeah.
continue to address, okay, Jhonika, hold on. Am I in my feelings or did they mean or they didn't even mean it that way? So
Yeah.
you're already getting some awareness, but your natural tendency is to take it personally. The backside of the blessing is the awareness that you can go, oh, that ain't personal. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah, yeah.
He would have acted up with anybody. He didn't just act up with Jhonika. He would have acted up with anybody.
Yes.
And so you're already into that awareness, right?
Yeah.
And so what this does is empowers you to really have a better understanding of you. And so when you look at, and you just kind of addressed it, I want you to do something for me. I want you to get your pen and I want you to write this down with your dominant hand. So whichever one's your dominant hand, I want you to write, my name is, in your name. My name is Jhonika. Write that and then let me know when you're done.
Yeah. Done.
Now, was that hard?
No. Mm-mm.
Did you have to think about it?
Mm-mm.
How does it look?
It's decent. It's good.
Looks good, right?
Yeah.
It
I think so.
looks good.
Yeah.
So now I want you to do the exact same thing. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed. Mm-hmm.
So with your non-dominant hand,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do the exact same thing. With your left hand, I want you to write, my name is Jhonika. And let me know when you're done.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, this is crazy. Why I gotta be so slow in that? Okay. Just not I'm out here like, girl, you should practice doing this so you can be better. Okay.
Did that take longer?
Yeah, it took longer. I had to go back and fix some things.
Was it uncomfortable?
Yes, always it is.
It
Mm-hmm.
was uncomfortable. Did it take you, did you have to think more? It took you longer?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So go back to look at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
The color bars represent you writing with your right hand.
Okay.
That's your natural tendency.
Mm-hmm.
It's your natural tendency to be social, engaging, because that you are a high flight attendant. It is your natural tendency to be uh, all about the pace, to be supportive, to really want to make sure that you're of service. That's your natural tendency.
Yep.
The gray bars, those represent your writing with your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
Those represent your adaptive, right? Or your flexibility, meaning, let's go back down here, meaning right now, your natural tendency as a flight attendant is to be optimistic and expressive, right? But if we go here, we look at the gray bar, you can go as high as 90 and you stay and that go down as low as 70. That
Mm-hmm.
means you have the flexibility to go all the way up to almost inspiring people down to just, to being friendly. Like you can, this is kind of your flexibility in this range,
Okay.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But what that means is you're writing with your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
What it means is, think about when you started writing with your left hand, you hadn't finished and you started questioning like, oh my God, I need to practice this. Oh my God, you didn't even finish. You got
Didn't
to
even finish.
question, I need to practice this. I need to get better at this. Now let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you going to write with your left hand on a regular basis?
No.
So why do you feel like you would even need to practice?
I know. Yeah.
And so
Mm-hmm.
think about in real life, when you
Mm-hmm.
get into situations where you need to be a little more flexible, more inspiring, more energetic, you take that as, oh my God, I got to get better at this. when the reality is you're only being flexible for that part of you when you need it. But you don't need to beat up yourself or question your confidence when this is just something you're adapting in the moment, right? Now,
Mm.
the other part of that is how many times are you stretching into being inspiring and energetic when it ain't necessary?
Mm. Mm.
When do you write with your left hand and it ain't necessary?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Keep
Hmm.
tracking with me. Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm there.
So now let's go to your decisiveness. You are naturally practical and conservative, right? 80 and 40, but you can go all the way up here to decisive and all the way down here to, you know what, let's just get along to get along. Whatever y'all want to do.
Yeah. Really.
But you so what this means is you have a flexibility in this area. Now, I gave you kind of a challenge, like, okay, do you have to do that? But let me also give you the positive of that. That means your natural tendency is to be practical and conservative. And that's good because that means there's some decisions in what you do that you need to tell a player, no, dude, that's not what we not gonna go to that strip club at 4 in the morning. Let me explain to you why. We're not gonna do that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a strength that you need. And there's also times that you do need to stretch up here because in that moment, when instead of you sitting there thinking about, well, how do I make sure that, no, you just got to go up here and be decisive,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so also the good thing is you are flexible enough in your adaptive to know here's where the growth comes when you need to go up here because you have the ability. But don't beat yourself up because you may do it and it don't look as good. It may take longer. And just like writing with your left hand, it may require more intentionality, but the
Yeah.
reality, you have the ability to do it when you need to.
Mm. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the power of this assessment is you get to understand here's your strength. You are
Yeah.
a high I and a high S. You are a high flight attendant and a high grounds crew. That also means you get to understand the backside of that, meaning because I am supportive and I am the person who wants to serve, I also have to recognize when am I doing too much? When am I doing too much? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the backside of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can sit down, grow in that area of it don't require all that right now. Guess what?
Mm-hmm.
All they need is A and Z. I don't have to give them B through Y.
Yeah.
That's what feeds me, but that isn't what's needed now.
Mm-hmm.
So scroll down.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this page here where it says adaptive, again, this just goes through what we went through. It gives
Yes.
you where you literally have the ability to go all the way up here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you, and which one do I want to highlight? I want you, here is a deeper dive into the analysis of you, the data of you. So you see these right here, you see the bullet points?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to read out loud each bullet point, and I want you to tell me, is that pretty representative of you or not?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So first one makes little distinction between work and play. Fair. Fair. Be persuasive and enthusiastic in your communication. Fair. Have a large network of friends and acquaintances. Fair. Um, be openly willing to be vulnerable with others. I don't know if that's fair.
Okay.
The open part, the open willingly. Okay, yes, let's okay. Put a pin there. Possesses a naturally magnetic personality. So I've been told. Yes, we say that's fair.
I will say yes on that one. Yes.
Okay, yes.
So you want to be a pin on, you tend to be openly willing to be vulnerable with others. Why do you want to put a pin there and come back to it?
Yeah, I think the openly willing part is the part where I'm just like, I don't know if I naturally agree with that because I feel like I can usually be more. It's interesting because I feel like it's like what it comes down to, what I'm sharing. Like, like vulnerable in like something that doesn't really matter. Sure. Like, you know what I'm saying? I do feel like I was like, oh man, that was crazy. Like, ugh, I had a time with that. But like vulnerable in things that like matter, then I would say probably not the most open with people with that.
Mm-hmm. But you are open to being vulnerable. Now you quantified level of vulnerability.
I do.
But there are some people that it don't matter what level it is. They're not going to be vulnerable about nothing.
Yeah, no,
But
no.
for
I think I'm
you,
open.
there are, okay. And
Yeah.
again, this is data. It's going to have some variance. It ain't going to be exact.
Hmm.
But let's say that one isn't exact. 1, 2, 3, so 4 out of 5 dead on from the data.
Yes, I would say so. Hmm.
Yes. And
Hmm.
so what I want you to do when you go through each of these, you'll
Yeah.
see, ask that same question. How close is it to me? How close is this to me? So when you keep going through this, because I want to spend some time talking through, what this also does is it helps you um, break down when we talked about your adaptive, it gives you more insight into how you effectively be you.
Mm, yeah.
What we can do is we can beat ourselves up for who and what we are. So for
Yeah.
I used to beat myself up like, man, why do I feel like I just got to tell all the details? Like I don't
Mm,
even want to give all the details. Well, when I realized, oh, but that's what makes me so good at being me. Now,
mm,
backside of that is I need to be more discerning
yeah.
of what the details are needed, or more importantly, I need to be more in tune with my D. Because my D, instead of me having this, now I want you to really hear this, instead of me having this internal conflict, I need to just lean into all 4 elements of my behavioral tendency. So what
Mm,
would happen is because I was a high S at the time, I would lean so much into that. If my high D tried to get me to make a decision, I would have this conflict instead of recognizing, oh, I need to use all 4. So if my
mm,
high D is saying it's okay to make a decision, it's okay to make a decision. So
yeah.
it helps eliminate this internal battle. So for you in your decisiveness, it's like, you know what? You can trust. I have looked at all the touch points. I've looked at all the angles. I've analyzed all the possibilities. I can make a decision and trust it,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
What this does, this page 12, is it gives you even more insight into how to be effective in your adaptive, i.e., writing with your left hand. It
Hmm.
just gives you more insight into like what motivates you. Like, how do you get motivated? Now,
That's good.
I want to go down here to the self-care on page 14. This really gives you more insight into the things that you've been saying you needed. What does what do you need to make you the better you? But more importantly, how do you serve you? Well, this just gives you some elements on how you serve you.
Yeah. Mm,
Okay. Then,
okay.
then I want to go down to where's the one? Okay, not that one. Uh, where am I? I wanted to make one more point. Oh, here we go. So this page 15.
Hmm.
Now this also helps you with, and I want you to spend some time here. this is what's going to help you with the work we're going to do together
Mm-hmm.
from a mentoring standpoint. Like I want you to really spend some time, like out of these bullet points, the ones that apply, where do you feel like we need to be working on with from a mentoring standpoint? So give me some of your thoughts on the abundance of information we just went over. And I'll put it back on the screen if you need me to. But
No,
what are some of your thoughts?
yes, abundance of information. Yes, all good. It's so funny because even when I was taking it, I'm like, man, this is a lot. Like answer those, sitting and really answer those questions again. Like I was like, hey, do I do this? Do I go? What like so it's funny when you get to these results and I'm like, okay, this lines up. Interesting. I mean, I'm very interested in that gray area, right? Which is funny that it is even gray because it's like in your thought of like, yes, leaning into that and knowing you have capacity and capabilities for that area. It's funny because I think, yeah, I'm just in the like, what happens is I'm like, oh, if I lean too much into that, I lose the other stuff, right? Like, you can't, if you become like a person that's super precise, super this, oh, you lose some of your like ability to relate to people. I'm making this up, but like it's like kind of like these extremes. So I think that's interesting. Also like through this whole part where you're just spot on when it's like, what does this growth mean for you? Like, what are those opportunities? Because I think a lot of times I can do all these things for others, but have such a hard time turning it to self, if that makes sense. So I can be super optimistic, super everything, best rah rah cheerleader for anyone that comes across. But then my husband would tell me, he'd be like, you are your worst. Like if you said the things you say to yourself to other people, like what the like that's not even you, right? So I think like also, you know, applying those things to myself, it has a big thing because I'm like, yeah, I can be super, like you said, for my work, which was funny that it's like work and play like blend because for my work, like I can do all those things. Like, but then for self, I'm like, who is that person? Because she won't be applying it over here.
Mm-hmm.
But again, comes this conundrum. Then I'll be like, I'm just tired. I've given all of that elsewhere. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll be fine. I'll just keep, operating in that. It's okay. So I think that is like an interesting part. But yeah, the great part really like leans in. It's like, you also have this. And all these things can work together and they need to all work together as
Mm-hmm.
well. So,
So I want to highlight something. Excuse me. Is why do you feel like you went immediately to the gray, the adaptive, and skipped over the natural, who you are?
yeah, that's an interesting point. Mm.
Yes. Why do you think you just did that?
Ugh, back to that, like, I always have to be doing something better. Or, like, I always have to be like, there's room for improvement here. Like,
Mhm.
which is also funny. That goes back to just things that God has been telling me to, like, trust in your gifts, trust in the gifts I gave you, right? And I'm like, oh, okay.
Mm.
But I think that's funny. Yeah, that was
Very insightful.
very insightful because it's like I'm always like, how can I improve? Like this is all fine, but how can I get better? These are things you need to focus on versus celebrating the fact that you never meet a stranger. Like people can feel inspired by you. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, those things, they just, yes. I feel like, again, those things don't hold as much weight when I'm just like talking about them. I'm like, oh, okay. Uh, like, and
Why
I feel
don't
like
they hold weight? Why don't
oh, it's like funny because I feel like I just had this like conversation, and I was like, it was like some older guy. He like told me, he was like, man, you're so hard work, you're so this, you're all these things. But he's like, how you are with people, like that's like a gift. And I was like, oh, okay. Like but I don't see that as like, sure, but anybody can be nice if they want to. Like I just see it as like you're being nice, like you're moving thoughtful. Like I just don't see it, I guess, as something but again, I guess it's like natural. So maybe that's why I don't see it. But I don't know. I think I just shy away from like things that are like good sometimes. That that I have that I'm like, I'm really good at this. I usually just shy away and don't highlight those things. Like I'm always like, hard to take a compliment. Like Eric will be like, "Oh, you look so great," and the first time I'm like, "Oh my gosh, my hair did not lay right." Like this, and he's like, "Can you just sit in the? I just said you look so great," and I'm
And you
like,
just say thank you. Yeah.
"Can you just say thank you?" But I'm like, "But I can't. I don't know. That's just my brain just goes to the improvement part."
Mhm.
This is
And
good. I
why
feel
do you think,
fine.
oh, I have such a tickle. Why
Mhm.
do you think you can't set in the good part? You go immediate to the I need to work on part. Why do you think that?
Um, I mean, I think it's so funny because I feel like also like getting about to get a new therapist, but like in working through therapy, you see how it's like all of these like things from a young age that happen. So like growing up, it was always like a striving. Like it was never just enough of like what I was doing, like where I was, like resting in that. It was always like, but you could be doing this. You should be doing this. Like they're doing that. Like, don't you have the ability? You know what I'm saying? It was always like that. So I feel like that striving mentality is just what like naturally comes out like in everything. Cause I'm like, well, but I could be doing more. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, this is fine, but there's more that could be happening. So I think a lot is just like that upbringing. And now I'm realizing, like, okay, you're an adult now. So you have the power to break these things and change these things. And this does not have to be what you're defined by. But I still think like some of that innate things, like those core things came from that.
And do you value the let's just say the color bars, the things that make you great? Do you value those things?
Um, yes, I think I do value them in the respect. It's been interesting because I feel like as my walk with God has got more, like I have valued it more because I see them as like things that are lining up with him, right? Like his character, the fruits, like I see them in that lens, and I feel like that's helped. So I feel like I do see value in them. I just don't celebrate them, I guess, or I don't like naturally be like, oh girl, you did such a great day today. Like, you were so kind to all these people and you listened and I'm just not doing that. It's just like, oh man, you probably could have been better in that conversation.
And do you feel like there is a need for validation?
Mm, mm, mm. So I think it's so funny because again, I feel like I'm in this place of where those things have been broken. I would say yes. Naturally, there is a need for validation, or a lot of times I'd be like, oh, I just need to feel seen. Like I don't feel seen. Like it was always this like feeling of being seen. But now I do feel like that's come off me. Like I don't necessarily feel like I need to be like super validated in things or feel seen, but I do feel like I want to do the best by people. So I feel like that is where it comes where I'm like, I'm not craving it or necessarily seeking it how I used to, but I'm still like, I want to do the best and I want to make sure I showed up my best for them.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So, what I would assess
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is it's hard for you to value you fully because there's still that element of need validation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because to automatically go to, oh, I need to do better at this, to automatically go to the adaptive.
Yeah.
There is something you get from, there's a validation you get from, oh, I was at 2, I went to 6. I was this, but I did better. And so what happens is though there is a positive in that,
Mm-hmm.
the negative is that you never own in confidence
Mm-hmm.
the part of you that is valuable. You never own in confidence. So there's always underneath this need for validation, this endorphin rush of your confidence. There's a burst in your confidence because you got that hit of validation.
Yeah.
What we want you to do is just have your confidence.
Yeah. Mm.
Stop
Mm.
pumped up by validation. When you hear me say that, what does that speak to you?
Oh, man. That's good. Period. That's good. Okay. But I think it's funny because I think that goes back to like the hold on. I did do my little homework from last time. The quote that you like gave. Hold on, let me pop it back up. The drive being the protective strength, and then the confident is our vulnerable strength. Okay. So
Yep.
I feel like yes, I just heard everything you said. I just am in agreement. I
I
feel
want you
like,
to I want you to find the words. Keep searching.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I feel like, yeah, like just moving from a place of being confident is just something. Not this laptop. You know, these laptops die so quick. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna turn my power save on. Should be good. Um, so I feel like the confidence piece is yeah something I've had to work at so much. Like to be confident, to show up confident, like but like you said, it usually is coming from like these external factors because I'm internally just kind of like beating myself up so much where I'm just like, oh, so if people would say like you're hardworking, like you said, it'd be like a hit. I'm like, oh yes, okay, I'm hardworking. Stay there. Keep being hardworking because people like when you work hard. So like again, back to that quote, it's like that's safety there, right? So if you work hard, you'll be good, right? Or like if you're nice to people, you smile, you're bubbly, you'll be good, right? Versus like moving from a like, oh, no, you got this. Like God has given you so many gifts. Like I'm moving from, it's never really been an internal
Mhm.
confidence that I'm moving from, honestly, because I think it's always been the questioning, are you enough? You know, do you bring value in just yourself? Like, right, if I'm not doing all these other things, are you still cool, right? Do people still want to? So, like, that's just like this internal dialogue. I think that's like happening all the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm. Yes. And so that internal dialogue of constantly questioning, are you enough?
Yeah.
People love you, like you, want to be around you if you're not the life of the party, if
Mm-hmm.
serving them. Because again, your superpower is being personable and being of service.
Yeah.
But where's your confidence?
Mm-hmm.
Where's your confidence?
Yeah.
Again, the flight assessment is a tool that is assessing your behavioral tendencies,
Yeah.
not giving you the insight into who you are. What it's doing, it's showing you your behavioral tendency. You can now, remember I said at the very beginning of our session, what it does is it allows you to get to know you better.
Yeah.
Now, with that, what we've now uncovered is your behavioral tendency. You are social, you are of service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you grow in your confidence?
Yeah.
Because that's just how you show up. That's not who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I ask you, who are you? How do you answer that question?
Mm. Mm. Right. Um, I who am I? Hmm. I think baseline, I'm a lover.
Mhm.
Like I just am a lover. Love is what I like move from in everything. Um, I think, I am a person who does want to do the best by people. Even if that means not doing the best for
Mhm.
myself. Um, I think I am guarded in that because I think I have found myself just being the person that is there for everyone else a lot of times. So I just feel like that's just got to where I stay. So like, I don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, my problems aren't as big. My problems aren't as anything. Let's focus on you. So I think I'm a like, let's focus on you person at the core. Um, and then, I would say that now I really just try to move from this space of Jesus. Like that's really at the core, I feel like where I found like most of my like all of the identities, and that's why I feel like I'm in this place of like undoing all the things because it's just like I really want to move spirit led. I want to move from a place of that. So I would say at the core, like that is it for me. And that's where I found the most joy, peace, like everything is moving from that place. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And you started to say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the only reason you stopped
Mm-hmm.
is because it didn't sound good, but it
Okay.
really is how you feel.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
So let's spend some time there.
Mhm.
Why do you feel you don't matter?
Um, I think it's just again going back to like this growing up, right? It was just me having to take care of everyone else around me. Like so it was a lot of like not feeling um like I couldn't express like how I felt about things. So I think I got to this place where it was just like be agreeable, don't rock the boat, like don't question, like it was just very much like keep back to like keeping the peace, right? It was just like this state of like keeping the peace. So I just started to like move from that place. So it's like because if I maybe shared an opinion or expressed, like it was like a negative. It wasn't seen as like, oh yes, you have to express your feelings. This it was more like I said what I said. Like that doesn't matter. So I think in general, like too, even with the work I do, like it's always like doing for other people. So I just be like, this is what matters. Like we have to make sure your output is best. We have to make sure yours is good, even if I'm like don't, like I mean, prime example, like this week has been like all these work things, but like one of our like my really good friends passed away. And like it was like one of my husband's best friends. She's 34, cancer, crazy thing, right? But
Mm.
like in my head, I'm like, nobody cares. Like not saying nobody cares, but you know what I'm saying? Like you just gotta keep going. Like, you know what I mean? Even though I couldn't even really be like, I don't even know how I feel about this. Like I finally cried like yesterday, but I was like,
Oh, her computer died. Yeah.
Computer can trust me.
Yeah. I was like, yep, her computer died.
Not be trusted. Okay. But yeah, so in my head, I'm like, the show you gotta keep going. Just like keep going. So I just feel like I'm always like, I'll be fine. Like it's okay. But even in my conversations with people, right? They'll be like, how are you? I'm like, I'm good. No, like, don't worry about me. It's okay. We're good. Like that is truly my conversation with anybody. And they're like, oh, okay.
hmm And I want you to spend some time before our next session. I want you to spend some time with this question. Can you and your concern for you and your care and support of others coexist, right? Meaning you can be a part of your own existence. You don't have to put yourself to the side in order to prove that you're a good person. You can genuinely be valuable to you and be valuable to others. Those two things can coexist. I want you're going to get a post, you're going to get an email that says, hey, what's some of your takeaways from the session? And I want you to spend some time living in that truth. It doesn't have to be an either or.
Yeah.
So, with the couple of minutes we have left, what are your takeaways from today?
Well, that is a big one. That's a big one. I think that owning the confident part is a big one. Like from an internal confidence standpoint is huge. Um, and then like you said, there's still this element of validation. And I think that's interesting because, like I said, I've made so many, like, it's like night and day from what it was, but you still see, oh, okay, I see how you're creeping back in this form or this. So I think that's interesting. So that's a big one. Um, like I said, I'm excited to go through just like the assessment and looking at those growth areas. I'm very excited to do that. But also in that, looking at those strength areas and knowing that those things can be applied to me and like those things too, comparing them with God-given gifts, right? Like, and what that looks like and what he has told me about myself and how to apply that first to self. It's big. So yes.
I want to leave you with this. You have defined the gray area as weaknesses you have to work on. I said from the beginning, they weren't weaknesses.
You said that.
I said throughout, these weren't measuring weaknesses. And you still said, I want to go review this to see the things I need to work on. And that assessment did not provide you a weakness to work on. Right.
Yeah.
That assessment provided you the strength of who you are and how to be even better at that. And so I want you to remove the lens of its weaknesses. And here's the bigger thing. In addition to that, you're not going to write with your left hand.
Yeah.
There's no reason to get better writing with a hand you're not going to write with. That is about is how do I use this information to continue to grow in the areas that I want to grow in to be even better at who I am. Not how do I go fix weaknesses when this didn't define weaknesses for you to go fix.
Yeah.
You tracking with me?
Uh-huh.
So,
It's
with
good.
that,
It's good.
you will have access to this replay and this transcript and a summary of the transcript in the portal. So, if you want to
Okay.
go back and look at the notes, and then I'm going to send you the service that we had Sunday.
Okay.
I think it's going to be good for you to watch that as well.
Please share.
I got an 11
Okay.
o'clock.
Okay. I'll talk to you
Merry
later.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.